Welcome back. You're still watching Kaleidoscope on Channels Television. Directly or indirectly, the issue of climate change affects us all. Some of the Sustainable Development Goals are focused on avoiding a disaster in the near future. So today, we took a look at a structured organization helping to drive that goal. Let's find out more about them. The Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance, FBRA, is the industry coalition of the food and beverage industry set up as a producer responsibility organization in compliance with the directive of the National Environmental Standards Regulation and Enforcement Agency, NESRA's Green Light, for companies to work collaboratively on sectoral basis to promote and execute organized waste collection and recycling in Nigeria. The vision for FBRA started in 2012 but culminated in a corporation in 2018. From membership of 4 founding companies, the alliance has progressed with more food and beverage companies joining this vision. Currently, the coalition is made up of 16 members, and that's the Nigerian bottling company Coca-Cola, Nestle, 7-Up Bottling Company, Nigerian Brewers PLC, Guinness, International Breweries, Intercontinental Distillers Limited, Tulip Cocoa, Dow Chemicals, Tetra Pak West Africa, the Lacasera Company, NG Pet Manufacturing Company, UAC Foods, and Unilever. The alliance is poised to implement exemplary programs which will help preserve the environment, ignite innovation, create jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities for repurposing of packaging waste while averting reputational and regulatory risks for the alliance and its members. Over the years, very little or nothing has been done to combat environmental degradation and to inculcate the right waste disposal habits, especially as it concerns PET bottles, aluminium cans, plastic packaging materials and beverage cartons. And that's why the FBRA is working towards building a self-sustaining recycling economy around post-consumer packaging waste, thereby stimulating employment, wealth creation and innovation in Nigeria. The head of the Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance, Arese, Lucia, sheds more light on the activities of this alliance. The issue of climate change is on the front burner. Countries around the world are looking for solutions. That is where your organization comes in. How did it all start?
Yes, like you rightly said, climate change is a global concern. And contrary to what people may think, climate change is actually affecting us here in Nigeria. And that's one of the reasons that the Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance, which is the industry alliance for the food and beverage sector, was set up in 2018. How did it begin? In 2018, some multinationals came together. Nigerian Bottling Company, which is the Coca-Cola company, Nigerian Breweries, Nestle, and 7-Up Bottling Company came together to form an alliance. And they were set up as the producer responsibility organization for the food and beverage sector. Based on the extended producer responsibility, which makes it mandatory for organizations to be responsible for the whole life cycle of their product, including their packaging material. The post-consumer packaging is what is critical that causes pollution in the environment, because we know that when people make use of the products from the food and beverage sector, they might leave it in the environment, and this causes pollution that affects climate change. So the need for the Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance is to actually address that post-consumer packaging material so that it's not in the environment, it is collected appropriately, and it is recycled, and a value is put to it.
And is there a roadmap that helps you achieve your goals?
Yes, there is. So we all know about these Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 of them. Ironically, out of the 17 goals, what we are set out to do, our mandate, actually covers a lot of those goals. So I'll go through some of it. If you want to talk about climate action, which is goal 13, if we are able to address plastic pollution or packaging pollution in the environment, on land, on sea, we can actually address the climate action. Innovation, industry, sustainable cities and communities. We know how our communities and our cities, like a city like Lagos, has to be sustainable. For it to be sustainable, we need to ensure that we put things in place, and then these packaging materials are not in the environment, but they are put to good use. And life on land and life below water has to be sustained. Then finally, partnership for the goals. We know that we cannot do this alone. Everybody has a responsibility. So we work with different collection partners. We work with different members of the industry, we also work with the government to ensure that we can address this issue that is looming.
And what are those programs that help you implement your work in these areas that you have mentioned?
We have 3 focus areas. The first focus area is collection and recovery. What I mean by collection and recovery of the post-consumer packaging materials from the environment. And we do that in collaboration with collection partners across Nigeria in different zones. So not only in Lagos, but also up north. So what we do with that is we work with those collection partners. We provide subsidies and we help them to collect more from the environment. And some of those collections have been able to ensure that we can have less materials going to the dump site or being in the environment. Since inception, we have been able to offtake over 4,800 metric tons of plastic waste from the environment. This volume I'm talking about would have been in the dump site, and we know that plastic waste stays in the environment for a long time. The second focus area is community awareness and engagement. There is a critical need to continue to educate people on the need for proper and responsible disposal of these materials. And we also need to encourage them and tell them that there's a value that can be put to these materials. Instead of it being in the environment, it can be put to good use. It can either be reused or it can be recycled. So we go for community engagement programs in different areas. So far, we have been able to go to over 30 communities. And what we do is we create the awareness, tell them about recycling, and then we partner them with an indigenous collection partner. So after we leave the community, that program is sustained within that community and they'll keep collecting. And then we also provide incentives using the products from our member companies. One of the critical things we do too is to engage with the government, engage with policymakers to make critical decisions concerning the environment that has to do with post-consumer packaging material to prevent pollution. So we have done that at different levels, both at state level, at the national level, and also internationally. So we have been able to engage with the Federal Ministry of Environment, the Lagos State Ministry of Environment. Recently, there was a plastic waste policy stakeholders workshop where we're actively involved to ensure that we provide the right framework that is implementable in Nigeria.
Which brings me to my next question. How can government policies enable the achievement of your environmental sustainability?
Policy is very critical, and policy is a key driver for environmental sustainability. If there's a policy that creates an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, a policy that creates opportunities for investors to come in, then environmental sustainability in Nigeria can be enhanced. And that's why we're working closely with policymakers, just like Lagos State, the Federal Ministry of Environment, to ensure that the policies that come up in terms of the environment are implementable and we can work with it.
The challenges you must be facing, how do you manage those challenges?
So there are lots of challenges when it comes to talking about recycling in Nigeria. And I'll just focus on 3 for the purpose of this discussion. So the first one, which is very critical, awareness and education. Do people really know the value that can be put to these materials instead of leaving them in the environment? Till date, you still see people that dispose of packaging material, bottles, cans in the environment. And you wonder, why are they doing it? Sometimes some people do not know. So one of the critical things is we try to create awareness, and I know that this is also a medium to create awareness that these materials can be put to good use. The packaging material can be put to good use. So it's important for lots of people to know that. The second one is the cost of operation. So when you talk about recycling of this post-consumer packaging material, most of the operators in this sector are small and medium-scale operators. And it costs a lot of money to actually start from the value chain. So if you start from the collection, where is the material generated? Maybe in the homes, maybe in the offices or in the business premises. So when it's generated, how does it move from that location to the next location? Logistics is a high cost because we know that for you to transport large volumes of this packaging material from one location to another, it has to be compacted. So it has to be compacted using a machine. So the cost of logistics is a lot for those operators, and they are small and medium scale operators like I talked about. So where do they get the finance? Where do they get the funds to be able to fund their operations? Lastly, I want to talk about infrastructure. And infrastructure is key because even when you create the awareness and tell people, okay, you can recycle your waste or you can recycle your materials, what structures are in place? And that's why the FBRA comes into place, because we're trying to enhance the waste management operations.
The issue of climate change is one that affects every living thing on the planet, which means we must all take it very seriously. What is your organization looking forward to in the next few years, especially as we set 2030 as a deadline for the SDGs? How do you ensure before that year something significant is achieved?
Okay, so collectively, we know that the next 10 years is a decade of action. So we all have a role to play. The first step is, currently at the FBRA, we have 16 members. And the FBRA has been set up as the producer responsibility organization for the food and beverage sector. You and I know that there are not just 16 organizations in the food and beverage sector. So one of the critical things we want to do is to increase membership drive, because when more members come to the alliance, they'll be able to have more funds to be able to carry out our activities. Secondly, we're looking at a place where each and every Nigerian knows about recycling in Nigeria, knows the value that can be put on the packaging material. The government has a role to play to enhance and implement policies that can promote what we're doing. In this case, the extended producer responsibility, which affects us directly. Then lastly, the players in the value chain, the SMEs, the operators, a way that they will be scaled up for more impact, to be able to do more. Because right now, most of them are still working in silos and they're still working on a small scale. But if they can have more funding, more investment, more structure, they can do more. And then by 2030, in collaboration with our various partners and different players in the value chain, we'll be able to achieve partnership with the goals to ensure that all the other sustainable development goals are achieved.
Well, we hope organizations will take the issue of climate change seriously and do more to reduce their footprint on the environment. That's the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, connect with us and go to youtube.com/channelsweb to watch past editions of the program. I'll see you next time. I'm Anne Nwawadu.